Hey everyone, thank you and welcome back to a brand new episode of Coffee with a Beauty Reviewer. And today, folks, is a very special episode as I am talking about a TV show that came out a couple years ago and it apparently got canceled due to low viewership. But I will consider this show to be my number 2 favorite TV show of all time. And I am starting a movement where we are hoping that it can be restored for a second season, and it is Dark Crystal Age of Resistance. And it's a prequel to the 1982 Jim Henson directed film called The Dark Crystal. And it holds up even to this day because of all the practical effects. But either way, that The Dark Crystal Age of Resistance is directed by his daughter. And so you could definitely tell that there is heart and soul that is put into this TV show. And I just want to say that this is a show that needs to continue. And it needs a second season. And hopefully we can now connect the dots between the TV show and the movie. And so, with that out of the way, let's get started with today's review as I am talking about it with my good friends from the Podcast Pod. And I had a really great time talking to these guys as we talked a lot about how everything was made, ranging from actors to the practical effects, everything about it. So, again, thank you so much for watching my video, and let's get started with Dark Crystal Age of Resistance discussion with my friends from the Podcast Pod. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching my video. Please leave a like and comment down below. Also, please subscribe to my channel as it really helps me out. And press that bell button to get notified for future videos. Thank you so much for watching this video. And what we got here is my friends that is from the Podcast Pod. And I just want to say thank you guys for being part of this. And this is a little movement that I'm going to be starting very soon, is that I'm trying to kind of let all you know is that there's a TV show that got canceled just a few months back, and I would consider this one to be my number 2 favorite TV show of all time, The Dark Crystal Age of Resistance, and it's by the Henson production business, and it is created and directed by Jim Henson's daughter. And you can actually see a lot of heart and soul that went into the TV show. And I thought it would be a good idea that I could talk to you guys and just ask you a few questions and just kind of see how you feel about this show and whether this is a good thing for us to start a movement to restore Age of Resistance. So how about you guys take it away and tell everyone where they can find you and who you are?
Yeah, I'll go first, okay. If that's okay, Dylan. We pretty much have the same credentials, roughly. But yeah, so we started a company called Some Nobodies, and Some Nobodies, we do a bunch of weird stuff. We have some TV shows, we have a bunch of podcasts. One of them is called the podcast show, which is where we review 7 weird podcasts that we find. Different. One really good one, a couple really bad ones. But yeah, we also do one called Create Your Own Podventure, which is a choose your own adventure podcast where you listen to episode 1 and then you choose which way you want to go from there. And you can either get attacked by a bear or go into the future or whatever. That's up to you. We have a TV show called Talking Upstream on Sundays where we interview movie creators and create something original with them. But yeah, we do a whole bunch of weird stuff at Some Nobodies, and you can see all that stuff at somenobodies.com. But yeah, we have a movie coming out soon, which I'm very excited about, called Give Me Back. But yeah, that's whatever. Some Nobody, who cares? I'm excited to talk about this show because this is very, very cool and something I wish we could create, but haven't yet. So Dylan, hey, where can people find you?
Zach said it. No, I write a lot of the Some Nobody stuff. I'm there on Sundays and Tuesdays. We also do a show on Friday called The Real Boys, where we talk about movies with a bunch of people. We do a new show, it's new, on Wednesdays for now, in the foreseeable future, called No Time to Binge. We watch the first and the last episode of TV series and try and fill in the blanks in the middle. Otherwise, I'm generally behind the scenes, except for stuff like this.
Well, that's great. That's great, you guys. Yeah, I just want to say thank you again for being part of this. Is that we've done previous videos before, and it feels like that we just kind of like had that complete understanding. Like it feels like that we all have kind of like that same interest in a lot of different kinds of stuff when it comes to like entertainment, movies, or even video games. And I think it's just awesome that we just get to sit here and do this video together. So I just want to say thank you.
Glad to be here.
Oh, no. Yeah, our pleasure. Thank you very much for having us back on. We love this show. Yeah, we watch your reviews all the time. So we're very, very happy to be here. And this is a great show. So we're in.
All right. Well, yeah. So I just wanted to start off and just ask you, what was your first initial thoughts when you finished watching the show of Age of Resistance?
I'll go first this time. Yeah. So I have vague memories of being freaked out by the movie The Dark Crystal. Like there's the baby and it's really dark. David Bowie shows up, they sing that song, and then I remembered that I had watched Labyrinth and not The Dark Crystal. So I've never seen the movie. So I went into this with very little knowledge of pre-established Dark Crystal stuff, and I had a great time. Puppetry, I was never a Muppets kid. I was never like a Fraggle Rock kid. I never did a whole lot of puppet stuff on shows. But the craft work and artistry and like just TV making in this is really impressive. And the story and characters are really good too. Like all around, this thing is it's a work of craft, and you can tell.
Yeah, I completely agree. Although my experience with Dark Crystal is a little different than Dylan's. I grew up in, I worked a Blockbuster Video, and so I had to watch, a lot of these movies in the mid 90s. And 1982 was arguably the best year for movie releases in general. So
that's true.
Dark Crystal was on that list of things I had to watch over and over again. So when I found out that they were doing another series based on it, I was super into, because I love the series. I love what Henson does. And like we said a little bit before the show, I think that it was so impressive that Henson really wanted to bring emotion to children's shows. It's so easy to make a fluff kid show that will easily sell or be watched over and over again. But Henson really, it was very important to him that real emotion was in the things that he crafted. So I still appreciated that they kept so much emotion while being so dark and so creative. But yeah, everything Dylan said is 100% accurate. Please, I want to watch The Dark Crystal with Dylan right now. So yeah, but yeah, they phenomenal job.
Yeah, I completely agree with the both of you. Is that I really do think that this is the TV show that you see a lot of heart and soul that went into it. You can definitely tell within the writing, the script, the story, and even just the puppeteering itself. Because like when you do a comparison between this and the movie, you could definitely tell that there's a lot of the very same elements and even like the same like function of the puppeteering. Is that like even when you see the Gartham at the very end of Age of Resistance, you can actually tell that was actually an actual person in a Gartham outfit. And that is exactly what they did in the movie. I just really like it that they just kind of like did all the same stuff from the 82 version, and they just made it look even more polished in this one, because it really felt like that this was just a full-on practical effect TV show. Like you can actually see that there was more practical than visual effects. And I think that's just the one thing that I really appreciate about this show. And it just brings me back into kind of like when I first watched Lord of the Rings, because Lord of the Rings was like more heavy on practical effects, but then we got The Hobbit, and then I'm like, where's the heart and soul? I don't see any practical effects. And I think that was one of the main reasons why that I feel like that The Hobbit could have been better, is because they didn't stick with what made Lord of the Rings so good. And like, I've just always been a big fan of practical effects because it makes you feel like, whoa, this is really happening right now. But either way, yeah. What were you about to say?
I was going to just say that I completely agree. And when, there is such a gap, there's 27 years in between, 37 years Wow, I'm old. Okay, 37 years
Yeah.
in between the movie and the series. And when you do finish the series, you could easily put on the movie, and it will, I mean, obviously it's updated and whatever, but it will still feel the same. Like it has the same like overall aesthetics. And I was so impressed that with the technology and the things they can do, they decided to keep like exactly what you said. They decided to keep the heart in it. And it's like, what is the idea of Dark Crystal? What does people feel when they think about Dark Crystal? And they put all of that into this and raised it up. And the voice acting is good. It's better than the movie, and the effects are all better while still being practical. So yeah, it was so much heart.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that. And like you said, is that the voice acting flawless. Like I couldn't think of any other actor that would be a good Chamberlain, a good scientist, the Emperor. Like when you look at the entire cast, you're like, whoa, this is like A-grade actors doing voice work. And it took me a while to recognize what the voice was of the general, not the general Skeksis, but the general to the main character that is Taron Egerton's I always forget his name.
Odrin or something, his dad.
Yeah, Odrin, his dad. But I was all like, why does the voice sound so familiar? And it's Mark Strong
of Green Lantern fame.
Oh yeah, oh my gosh, I always forget that he was in the Green Lantern as Sinestro.
Yeah, of all movies Mark Strong is in, how do you pull out Green Lantern? But yeah, I mean, when you think about it, Frank Oz is one of the best voice actors of all time.
Yep.
And he did some of the most amazing voices that anyone has ever heard. And to get not only an all-star cast to do this film or to do this series, but to match perfectly what Frank Oz can do and still, oh man, it was so impressive. I am so in love with this.
Yeah, I really do think that it was Mark Hamill's scientist, Simon Pegg's Chamberlain. I always forget the name of this actress's name, but she did play Deet. Wasn't it the girl from Game of Thrones?
Becky Henderson?
I think that's her name.
Yeah. She's from Dairy Girls and stuff, but
okay.
She's great.
Lena Headey was in this.
Yeah.
From Game of Thrones, yeah.
Yeah, there's a few Game of Thrones actors that lent their voice, because I think there was another Game of Thrones actor that played the princess. She was Joffrey's wife.
Well, they have the Anna Taylor-Joy, who was in the last X-Men movie, The New Mutants. Mm-hmm. She was Bria, Deet's sister. Okay. So yeah, this thing is straight stacked. Oh, yeah. Like it's such a great cast. Jason Isaac's in it as the Emperor, which he's the one who has to go up against Frank Oz. So that's amazing.
But like I think I just find it kind of funny, especially that there's like a big connection between Mark Hamill and Frank Oz, because they have known each other for so long. And I would not be surprised if Frank Oz taught Mark Hamill how to do voice acting, because like Mark Hamill, he's just one of those actors. If he's tied to it, it's going to be something absolutely fantastic when he lends his voice, because you got Luke Skywalker voicing the Joker, and you also got him voicing the scientist.
Yeah, and I mean the scientist from the last one was Steve Whitmer from like all the other original Muppet movies, who did like everything. He's like Kermit's voice, and another just phenomenal voice actor that once again still like Mark Hamill has to not only match this voice perfectly, but also emotion and depth and everything. It's so good. But I mean, why do you think that this show got canceled though? Do you think it's just straight viewership? Because they set up so much for season 2.
They really did, yeah. So what happened in this show is that apparently it did not get enough viewership. But if you were going to talk about like what they did with the whole marketing thing of like trying to let people know that there's this TV show coming out, because it felt like that Netflix was all like, just another TV show. We're like, we'll just advertise it on our Netflix channel, and that's it. But the problem is that not that many people were able to watch it, not until probably after it got canceled, because I actually saw some statistics that ever since they said that they canceled it, there's actually been a spike of what people watching it on Netflix than ever before. And so like I think it's like I said before, it had a lot to do with the marketing side of it, because I'm pretty sure if they marketed it to people who love Dungeons and Dragons, Lord of the Rings, Narnia, like high fantasy stuff, I'm pretty sure they would instantly have so much viewership, and that would lead up to a second season.
Yeah, I mean, this thing, if you on IMDb, it has like 8.5 out of 10 stars. Like, people liked this thing, and yeah, it even won some awards. It won a couple like big time children's awards. But I think that's the problem. I think that for some reason it got geared towards a child audience, and I don't really know.
I mean, the budget on this must have just been astronomical for a series of its scale. The physical like manufacturing and production requirements for this, like those sets, one of the first things that stuck out at me in the first episode is like the scientist lab, all those mechanisms, everything running, the chains that shoot out at the crystal, everything's physical. It's the animatronic and puppetry requirements, the casting. I read a little bit of like production logs from like the crew, and they said the production was just an absolute, just grueling occurrence they put together. And I'm not surprised that Netflix was like, yeah, the return on this investment isn't exactly where we want it to be. But also, this sort of thing happens with sci-fi fantasy series where it gets canceled and then suddenly viewership picks up because people realize that it's good.
Yep. That's it. Yeah. I mean, that was the same scenario that happened with Firefly. But instead of
this thing got a lot of there's a lot of money put in this. I mean, it's like 10 episodes and it got $25 million. And yeah, a lot of that went to like the high level voice cast, but still, that's a chunk of money though.
Oh yeah. And so that just leads me to ask you this next question, is that how do you feel about just kind of like the cinematography, just kind of like how I really do think that there is such a big appreciation for the art that they brought into this movie. Like, I would say that if you observe it, and I actually heard how much percentage was used for practical effects and visual effects. Apparently, it was 83% practical effects and 17% visual effects. How did you feel about just like the whole thing that went into the making of this show?
I was surprised in a nice way at how dynamic the camera was. Like it's a weird thing to notice, but there's a lot of swooping camera. There's a lot of motion in the camera following things, and they're very careful not to show anybody from the legs down, so they can run around and stuff. But it's just a really well put together, like just cinematography to make sure that this looks authentic without showing too much stuff behind the curtain.
Yeah, I mean, having to match something that is nostalgia, beautifully done from the 80s, while also having to be visually stunning and engaging for a 2017 audience, which is when they were making. They did such a great job, and I think they learned in like The Mandalorian or something what the exact percentage of practical effects make people the happiest, and it's got to be exactly 83%, because I think that they absolutely nailed this thing, and it's upsetting that art like this isn't appreciated more, because it is bingeable. It has such a great storyline. It is entertaining. It adds on to an already beautiful universe, which is what the movie is. I'm upset that more people don't watch this.
Yeah, Yeah, and so that just leads me to asking you the harsh question, because I think this is a question that a lot of people had to answer, and it is: does it feel a little bit bittersweet to you guys, especially since the movie that came out in 1982? This is set after everything that happened in this TV show, and did you at all feel kind of bittersweet towards the end because you already know what's going to happen?
Well, so obviously Dylan doesn't really know
I'm
what happened.
I'm vaguely
But
aware with the state of Thraw during the Dark Crystal movie. I know it gets really
yeah,
bad for the Gelfling.
um, yeah. I mean, for me, I know where it's going, but this show ended in such a way where I still wanted to know what happens in the middle. There's so much more life. There's a lot of Gelfling still. There's I'm curious because you have what's your face? You have Deet's foreshadowing vision that lets
Yep.
me know a couple cool things. We still have a lot of Skeksis left. There's a transition of power in between that. I know some of the Skeksis that last. So they did a really good job of adding to a story that I thought was closed while also wanting to get I wanted more. I still want more, but there's
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
there's comic book spin-offs, and I do have a couple of series of those, so I do know a little more about what goes on like in this world. But I want it. I love puppets. I think they're great. It's a great medium.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. Yeah. And I was just thinking about, just especially that you know more about the world of Thra and just like all the lore behind the Dark Crystal. And so it just leads me to ask you this: is that if we do end up getting a second season, I wouldn't be surprised if that maybe they already did some filming for the second season, and I'm pretty sure they're going to need to add more to it. But would this particular character, which is actually the Mariner Skeksis, do you think it would be kind of interesting to see that Skeksis? Because there's actually one thing that I really appreciated about the Skeksis is that you got a lot of Skeksis. You can actually see that almost each one almost has kind of like a redeemable quality. Like with the scientist, you could tell that he has a deep love of like nature and kind of like throughout species, and he apparently had like a good relationship with Lady Agra. And then you also got the likes of like well, even with like some of the Skeksis that we have not yet met, but they always have kind of like this one only good quality, but it doesn't shine because most of their evilness is overshadowing the goodness. But especially when it came down to Sam's Andy Samberg's Skeksis, it's like when I saw him appear, I'm like, wait, there's actually a good Skeksis here. But it just makes me feel like, wait, there's a Mariner Skeksis. Could this one be more kind of like Andy Samberg's Skeksis? So, like, how do you feel about that particular Skeksis appear into the second season if that actually does happen?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the Skeksis are such an interesting, I guess, race of things. And then knowing how the essence of a Gelfling kind of really pushes them, because that's like a drug to them, which makes them really kind of wild, and they lose that redeeming quality. The Mariner, yeah, what a great character. And then to think that each one has a tie to the Elder, one of those Elderlings,
Yeah,
would be
the Mystics.
the Mystics. Yeah, that'd be super interesting. Also, there, like I said, there's just so much in between this show and what they told us already in the movie that I would love to see, especially any cool, definitely a cool Skeksis. Give it to me.
I mean, on my end, evil bird people and evil reptile people are in my top 5 evil animal people list. So bring the Skeksis on. I'm 100% in.
Yep. Yeah, overall, I think each actor that voiced the Skeksis, I think they all did a great job. Jason Isaacs, we all know him as Lucius Malfoy, the red coat from the Patriot. Like, and you got Mark Hamill, Simon Pegg, just big cast of different actors voicing the Skeksis. I always thought that would be kind of cool if we actually got Kevin Conroy to maybe voice a Skeksis. I think that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, he's got a great voice, obviously.
Oh yeah.
I mean, anybody, and then or have him as like one of the mystics, and then you have like him go against Mark Hamill. Yeah, Mark Hamill's thing, so they could be opposites. That'd be really cool too.
Yeah. Well, maybe they could have the mystic that is the opposite of the scientist. That could be Kevin Conroy.
Oh, that'd be cool. Yeah, absolutely.
It's because essentially Batman and the Joker, they are just the yin to the yang to each other.
Yeah, and that would be great.
Mm-hmm. But overall, how do you feel about the Gelfling characters?
They're fine. They're not bad. But anytime any of the Skeksis were on screen, I'm like, yeah, be evil and conniving and like hunch around like a bird. I'm like, yeah, okay, this is great. And then it gets to the Gelflings, I'm like, they're kind of like elves. They're
very
cool.
much so, yeah.
Like they're the main characters. I liked the Gelflings who had the flying manta, the sky manta in the Crystal Desert. I don't remember their names.
Yeah, those guys.
Those were cool.
Yep. Yeah,
I liked Rian's dad.
Yeah.
I liked the 3 like adventuring Gelflings that show up in the Podling Tavern, Tavra and Kylan and the other one.
Yep.
Those were cool.
And that leads me to ask you about the one particular Gelfling.
Yeah.
Do you think the middle sister that is actually meant to become the next Al-Madra, did you just go like, I just want to slap this one in the face?
Celadon?
Yeah, Celadon.
I thought her turn was pretty well justified from her point of view in this. Like she's still clinging to the old idea of the Skeksis as the, they're rulers. So I'm like, all right. Mm-hmm. And then she shows up in this evil dress with like dark makeup and a pointy crown. And I'm like, you're leaning into it a little hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, I have such a different feeling because, I grew up watching Dark Crystal and I've seen it so many times. So for me, when I saw that there was Gelflings, I was like, oh, Gelflings, because when you watch the movie, there's one Gelfling and then you meet a second Gelfling and they're the only Gelflings left. So, for me watching this where there are not only just a couple more Gelflings, there's like sand ones and ranger ones and adventure ones, and it's like man, wow, they're so cool and they're so interesting, and to know that they all got wiped out just so that these bird people can live and be a little bit stronger. So I was so excited to see every single different Gelfling 100% because they're my heart. They're beautiful little hobbit creatures. I love them.
Yeah, I agree with you there, and it just leads me to ask you one question about specifically Deet and Rian. Do you think they might be the parents to Jin in the movie?
So I was curious if they were going to lead up to this, and what I was thinking at first was yes, but then in Deet's foreshadow they show Bria, and Bria's pregnant. So I think Bria is at least one of the 2 parents, which would not be very cool for if because they would get together later on. So I think that Bria is the parent of Jin.
I thought this took place way long before the movie. Like, I guess are Gelflings, are they long lived?
Yeah, Gelflings can live for a long time.
Okay,
but not to the extent of like the Skeksis, because but the thing is that like, especially in that foreshadowing moment when Deet actually now takes all of the power of the darkening, you actually see a little clip that looks like that there's a mother that is carrying the baby, and I'm guessing that the baby is Jin. But it kind of makes me wonder, maybe Jin's parents is some Gelflings that we have not yet met, but maybe it could be whatever that mother was, maybe it might have been the child to one of the Gelflings that we saw on the TV show. But like, there was also a couple other loopholes that you could not really connect, because especially when you see Deet with the darkening all over her face and in the throne in the Skeksis tower, like it does a lot of this stuff where it's going like, okay, this is stuff that is meant to be in the second season, and you'll be answering those questions, but it just kind of made you wonder of like who could potentially be the ancestors to Jin and to the other Gelfling that he met in the movie. But and it looks like that you actually see Rian taking the shard and putting it back into the crystal. What do you think about that?
Yeah, but knowing exactly, later on where we are in the movie and in that universe, that shard has to go away to somewhere else. So yeah, I mean, they did such an interesting job of making me want to know more, because at some point, they gotta drop what Kira from the movie, they have to drop her into a cave or something so she can grow up in the cave, and somebody has to give Jen to the mystics. So there's so much in the middle that I don't understand and would love to know.
Yeah. And so that just leads me to ask you a couple more questions, and it's just in regards to what would you place this TV show in, like your top 10 or maybe your top 20? Is this a TV show that you would recommend to anyone?
I'd recommend it to people. I'd probably put this in top 5 Netflix produced things I've seen. I think Netflix really knocked it out of the park on this, and a lot of that is just how much effort went into this and how much it shows. Like this show looks really good for a puppet feature. Like, I mean, obviously they're more than puppets, but like, this is top of Netflix's stable as far as I'm concerned. I'd probably go through and watch this at least one more time just to catch what I missed.
That's good.
Yeah, I would 100% suggest to anyone watching this. There's so much creativity and beautiful cinematography and amazing artwork, well-crafted stories, very interesting characters. Would I say that it's in my top list of shows? I would say that it is. It would definitely be in a top 20, because there's just so much nostalgia and so much just merging those two worlds and making it work while giving me so much more is a beautiful bit of artwork in itself. So it doesn't hit all the marks that I need in my shows for it to be like in the top 5 or the top 3. But as far as rewatchability, 100%. I could rewatch this thing right now. It's a beautiful movie or a beautiful show. So yeah, I would definitely recommend.
That's good. Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely one of those shows that you can easily just rewatch numerous of times. Like at this point, I've already rewatched it probably about like 10 times already. Like there's just something about it that just makes me feel nostalgic, especially for like my childhood. But it also has some mature themes, and it's like it tackles a lot about like death, and it talks a lot about kind of like segregation, because they tackle a lot of different themes. Because it really felt like I was watching like a Lord of the Rings and X-Men hybrid. That's what it felt like, because like you got like different races, and there are a few who look down on a few other different kinds. Then you got like this whole story that it's all about uniting together to take on the real enemy. And I just really appreciate what they did, especially kind of like that there were at least about 9 main characters, but the ones who would be considered the Trinity, which is Rian, Deet, and what's her name?
Rhea,
yep. Because it really feels like that they're kind of like the main Gelflings, because it felt like that maybe each one of them is actually supposed to be united together, that would actually spark the resistance. Because if you look at the symbol that is actually meant to be the symbol of the end and the beginning, maybe each one of them is actually that one point of the symbol.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I didn't really think about that. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, once again, the thing that was so interesting when I was a kid watching the Dark Crystal movie was how much Frank Oz wanted real life lessons to be told to kids, and he knew that you had to make real lessons engaging and consumable for children to want to grow up and keep those lessons. So
Mm.
to find out that his family and all of his fans that are making this now, they wanted to keep the same lessons in there, it's beautiful. And that's why I would definitely show this to kids, because you're like, look, man, like you can't just treat people different because they look different, or you can't treat people different because they talk different. You gotta just mesh, you gotta love, or else the crystal breaks, the crystal knowledge breaks. You gotta be good.
And that was actually something else I forgot to ask you, is that how did you feel about just the very concept that the whole prophecy was created by the only Skeksis that we already know that is actually considered good, and the mystic? Because I think it's just I thought it was absolutely brilliant just how they showcased what unity really looks like, because you could definitely tell that the mystic and the Skeksis, they really cared for each other, but technically speaking, it was self-love for one entity. But
Yeah.
I just really appreciate what they did with that specific Skeksis, is that they brought some light that there is actually some good in Skeksis. But I just really enjoyed that they did like a puppeteering to a puppeteering presentation. I thought that was just absolutely brilliant. Like when the Skeksis and the Mystic, they joined together and did their own puppeteering. I thought that was just very tripping. I think they did a really good job with that.
Yeah, that was really cool. I mean, all like the theme of unity and works throughout this entire show. I mean, even the idea that the darkness, and she even says like, "How do you beat the darkness?" And they're like, "You can't beat the darkness. It can only be transferred." And I think that's just a cool thing to think about. And the Skeksis and the Mystics joined together to do that is a beautiful simile and I or metaphor, I guess. I love all of it. I think all of this is beautiful.
And so my last question to you guys is, what would you give this show? Like, what will be your ranking from 1 to 10?
I mean, I'd probably
go ahead.
I mean, personally, I'd probably give this like a 4 out of 5, 8 out of 10. I'm so used. 8 out of 10. Anyway, 8 out of 10. I had a really good time watching this. I just had a really good time, and I watched it in one moderate and then one large chunk. And I don't normally do that, but I was like, I'll watch some today. I was like, all right, I don't have time to finish this. I started the next day and I'm like, all right, this is cool. This is cool. This is cool. And then I finished it and I'm like, whoa, I don't normally do that. And I was taken aback at how charming it was without being hokey. Sometimes charming can mean like, oh, that's cute. No, this is charming in that like it's very clearly a labor of love from people who really wanted to do it. And the end result is worth the effort, I think. So I'm giving it like an 8 out of 10. I think this is great.
Very well said. I completely agree with you in that whole aspect. Like you said before, I think that this is an absolute beautiful show. You could definitely see a lot of like the effort and the heart and soul that was put into the show. And before we get to the end, I want to hear what you think about the show, Zach.
Yeah, I would. So everything Dylan said is spot on. And the only thing that he doesn't have that I have is nostalgia for the original content. And a lot of times when watching a movie or a show, a lot of it is how it makes you feel. And by itself, beautiful, gorgeous show. When you add in nostalgia, when you add in the fact that I know where it's going to go and I'm still upset about some of these characters and I still want to know more. So I'm gonna give this 9 out of 10 because Dylan spot on about everything that he said. Splash a little bit of nostalgia on top of that, gives it an extra point. So yeah, 9 out of 10. easy.
Well, that's awesome. Yep. I I'm actually at 9.5 out of 10 for this TV show. Specifically for that, like you said before, it feels very nostalgic because I grew up on the movie as well. I mean, I've always loved what Jim Henson has done for us because he's one of those creators that you just instantly love, especially for what he's done for us when we were kids. Like you can even just look at the Muppets. Like he created some of the most facially recognizable characters in children's television. And then you even got the Dark Crystal because when you see a Gelfling, you're like, oh, Dark Crystal. And that's just, I just really love it that they just sparkled in some good nostalgic moments. And you also got like some new works that was put into this show. But I need to tip my hat off to his daughter because I think she did a really great job at just kind of like carrying on her father's legacy.
Yeah, 100%. A lot of shows, there are quotes that you're like, oh, I know what that's from, or whatever. And the Skeksis are very iconic just by the look. But if you walk up behind almost anybody and you go, they know exactly what that is, and it creeps them out, and they hold on to their clothes tight.
Oh man, yeah. Yeah, that I don't, for some reason you're all like, oh yeah, Dark Crystal, but seriously, I just could not get over of how good Simon Pegg was for being the Chamberlain because like his voice was exactly the same as the actor that did the Chamberlain in the 82 film. Like I really thought it was the same actor. Like,
yeah, everybody. And you can see in some people's acting when they love a project, they give it their, a little more. When you watch Simon Pegg in Mission Impossible movies, you're like, that's Simon Pegg. He's here for a name. But when you watch Simon Pegg in something like a Star Wars, where he can fall into a character and you're like, wait a minute, that's Simon Pegg. And it's because he's so passionate about it and he loves these projects so much. And he is just one more person that did such a phenomenal job to make that.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen Simon Pegg in so much stuff. I mean, like it really looks like that he's just like a nerd at heart, and he's proud of it because he's done Star Wars, Shaun of the Dead, even Star Trek. He's done both Star Trek and Wars, and then you also got the likes of like Mission Impossible. Like he's just one of those guys that you just want to like have a conversation with. Even in some of the interviews that I've seen him do, like I really think that if we were to interview him, I'm pretty sure we would just have a full on nonstop talk about like his career and stuff. But
dude, he's the center of nerddom right now. So I would talk to him for hours and hours.
Yep. Well, just to wrap things up, I just want to say thank you guys again so much. Like, just thank you so much for being part of this. And so the reason why that we're reviewing the Dark Crystal series is that because it got canceled, and I'm trying to shout out my voice to let everyone know is that this is a great show. It should have not been canceled. Let's maybe do another second season so they can wrap this up, and because I think it's just one of those shows that got that total Firefly treatment, got canceled way too early, but a lot of people was keep on shouting, and they're all like, give us more. And then we got Serenity, and it gave us that nice epic conclusion, and that is exactly what we need for this show.
Yeah, we should get a Dark Crystal movie.
God, shut up. No, but I mean, when you think about it, Netflix has so much money, and they put so much money towards a lot of things, and 25 million for a season of a budget of a season is not that much money, and they definitely should. There's so much garbage out there that Netflix keeps putting out, and this is actual art. It is an award-winning project. So give it to them. I'm in.
Yeah. So again, thank you guys so much for being part of this. And I just want to say this is a TV show that you guys will enjoy. And if you have not yet seen it, go to Netflix and watch it. You can just look at us as we are just completely geeking out about this TV show because we all love it. It's just a once in a lifetime TV show because of the art that went into it, and overall a really great, entertaining series. Like, each episode feels like it's better than the previous episode because it keeps on building and building and building. And so thank you guys so much for being part of this video. And any last minute things you want to say?
First and foremost, yeah, thank you so much for having us on here. We love your show. We love this project, obviously, but we're big fans of Coffee with the Beer Reviewer. So thank you. Dylan, what do you got?
No, thanks for having us again. And go check out Some Nobodies at all our stuff. Create Your Own Podventure is the new one we have out, but Silicon Angels Talking Upstream, Real Boys, No Time to Binge, SomeNobodies.com.
Yeah, we do a lot.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much. And the next time we're going to be reviewing the Tomorrow War.
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, on Real Boys.
All right. I'll see you guys later.
So thank you so much for watching my video. As like I told you before, is that let's continue the movement into restoring the Dark Crystal Age of Resistance. Let everyone know that this is such a great show, and if you enjoyed this TV show, just leave a comment down below and how you feel about the show. And if you like the video, please press the like button. And if there's more material that you want me to do, such as like reviewing more TV shows or video games or movies, just leave it down in the comment section down below. And like I've told you many times before, is that yes, I'm autistic, but there's always an upside, because autism is not a disability, it's a privilege. And I just want to say, keep drinking coffee, all right? And I will see you guys next time.